Oh, my bad. The camera is not straight. And neither is this video. Come on, that was smooth. Come on. I don't know how apparent it is, but in the last few years, if you haven't seen my face, ever since I started YouTube, I've been flirting with the idea of immersing myself into more Sapphic literature, and I've been kind of going back and forth and forgetting about it and then remembering and consuming something and then realizing halfway through, oh yeah, it's Sapphic, and I've been wanting to get into that for a while. So I decided for the last 2 to 3 weeks to genuinely sit myself down with as much time as I have, not force it out of me, but nonetheless to consume more Sapphic art and try to give my own little recommendations here and there. 5 seconds of disclaimers and I'll be right out of your hair. If at any point you're watching this video and you haven't seen my face before or something like that, first off, hi. Hope you enjoy the vibe over here. Second off, if by any means, in the slight chance that this is going on, somebody watches this and clicks and feels the incentive to go in the comments and write something homophobic, do not waste your time. Do not waste your keyboard. Go do something else. I trust in you to do something that is actually good. And then, yeah, that's kind of that. Second off, I don't necessarily have any literary credentials to be giving you recommendations. I'm just a girl that likes to read, and I give some subjective reviews and recommendations to you. So, if you like, you like. If you don't like, you don't like. And third of all, on the credentials, how do I relate to this topic? Let's put it in a way in which I avoid any kind of Christmas conversations that I don't want to happen. I deeply respect both men and women, and I think that that is part of the credentials.
He and she's you've loved in your time, haven't you?
So I've read.
Hello, this is me editing. I just wanted to apologize. The audio is gonna be a little bit different on the first two books because my microphone just decided it's not gonna record, so I have the audio from the phone and I tried to readjust the sound a little bit, but yeah. It is a little bit different, so sorry. As was maybe expected, maybe not. The book that made my spring TBR is now making the cut for this video, which is the Sapphic Recommendations, and that is Paradise Rot. Listen, I've been meaning to read this book for a really long time, and a friend of mine got it for me, and I read it in a heartbeat, as fast as I could with the time that I had, because I don't know if I programmed myself into liking it because I just knew it was gonna happen, but there's nothing for me not to like. There's very underlying horror, not in any kind of crazy way. It's like naturalistic, surrealist horror. Kind of obsession and supposedly disgusting, but it never really landed disgusting to my brain at the very least. Sapphic? What else is there that I couldn't like about this? It's genuinely so... I feel like I can escape in this book. It feels like an entity within itself in many ways. And the way that it starts is the perspective of this young girl coming to study abroad. The beginning of it is very normal and very grounded. She's trying to find a place to live, and ultimately she does find a place to live with this one older girl. They move in together. This new place is very questionable in quality and amenities and whatever you want it to be. And it sort of looks at their time spent together with this girl that is the protagonist that we see the perspective of, and how the relationship between them ultimately forms. It's not that big of a spoiler, I promise you. It's just so, it begins so calm and smooth, and then it begins to get so coiled and twisted and almost psychedelic. And I maybe that's not the right word to use, but I do feel like I'm tripping the entire later half of the book, which is very contrasted by how not necessarily bleak, but normal and slightly eerie in its normalcy the beginning is. Also, it's very hard for me to believe that this is translated because it has such a lyricism to it, and the imagery is so beautiful and, again, very nature focused, very mushroomy, and there's lots of bodily fluids and fluids in general running around the book, but you only get to that a little bit later. And it's just fascinating. Yeah, no. Just look at the cover. I have nothing else to say. Just in case there's anybody that's genuinely bored of me talking about this one book, because I have to mention it in this context. Carmilla. I'm sorry. I will put a timestamp for when I get over this one, just in case. If you're looking for something gothic, if you're looking for the precursor of Dracula, if you're looking for a vampire crashing their carriage and cohabiting your old castle, then this is the book for you. To be fair, I am judging it from a little bit more lenient lens, simply because it was written basically in the 19th century, which is kind of insane if you think about it. To have a sapphic vampire story at such a time, in such a time in history, is something else. But nonetheless, let's say you're reading it from the perspective of now, I can totally understand that it can be very predictable. And maybe the ending drags a little bit and slightly falls. However, it is very beautifully atmospheric. The interactions between the leading ladies of the book are very interesting. I just think it's a great read, especially maybe, let's say, in autumn to winter or winter. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for now, but if you're looking for vampires and lesbians without being too cliche, I think Take is good for you. Another thing is that this is also, just like the first one, a pretty short book, so depending on how you personally enjoy to read your books, you could easily finish this in 1 day, a day and a half, 2 days, something like that, or more, however you enjoy. So yeah. For the next recommendation, I'm going to give credit where credit is due, and that is the Recent Isabelle. I don't have it in my hands because I actually read it on my laptop. But I got the recommendation in the first place on TikTok. I saved a video from this really, really beautiful girl, and I got her recommended on my Instagram 2 days ago, and I actually entered on her account, and I saw that we're both from the same country, and so I DM'd her that I'm just absolutely obsessed with her content because it's, first off, gorgeous. Second off, she makes such good recommendations. I don't know. I trust her completely, fully. So go follow her on Instagram. Go follow her on TikTok. Go follow her on Substack. She's just genuinely so sweet. And I promise you, it is the best use of your time to listen to her. So yeah, back to the book. It was the most unabashedly hedonistic sapphic discovery book. Short, spans over 3 days. The story of these two schoolgirls discovering their preferences, discovering love, discovering their sexuality. And it's so poetically erotic. There is, I'm sure some people would argue that it's over the top, but it is so metaphorical and so full of images and symbols, and it's so incredibly sensorial and obsessive in a way that only a first love could be. It just genuinely feels like their relationship is what the entire welfare of the world depends on. It's just them and there's nothing else. And it's very gripping. I don't know how else to say it. It was just romance and erotica done in a way in which I've never personally experienced. And at first, it definitely was strange. Not in a bad way, just something I'd never experienced before. And then as I got into it, I could not leave the book down, laptop down. Nonetheless, it beautiful. And again, I'm sure that it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but if you're into romance and erotica done in this way, which I will say I usually stay the heck away from both because I am very easy to cringe in many ways. I am not saying no to this one whatsoever. Go and check it out. Also, hello, yet another book that was actually written in France in the 1960s and it was censored. So many groundbreaking good books from such old times. I need to interrupt myself once more. I didn't mean to say it like that. 1960s is not 10,000 years ago. I'm well aware. I'm sorry. One thing. Two thing, I completely forgot to mention the really big part of it, which is the society at the time and the space in which they were in, and how repressive that was, and just bravery and courage as a theme in this book, besides obsessive love and intensity. It's not just romance and erotica. Just so we get that out of the way. Departing a little bit from the romance, erotica, horror genres of Sapphic literature, I'm gonna give you a recommendation that is more realistic, more biographical, and it's not that overtly Sapphic. Yes, the author is a lesbian, and I'm back. I forgot to say the name of the book. It's Why Be Happy When You Could Be Normal. Thank you. And the book in itself kind of grapples with this topic in itself. But to be fair, it's very much just the life story of this young girl adopted into a religious family with a very complex but oppressive, controlling mother in the classic, unfortunately, stereotypical religious model that we have in our heads. And just the hardship of growing up. It's a coming of age story that looks at grasping identity and humanity in a space that doesn't encourage it. It looks at rage, rebellion, passion for books and writing, which was a safe space for the author in many ways, which is why she became a writer herself. And it felt so deeply human and flawed and honest to a fault. There was no fault by my standards. But the author talks about how insane she is aware she sounds when she talks about some things that happened, or she's embarrassed to talk about something and she still puts it on paper, and so beautifully and so simply sometimes. The prose is slightly reminiscent of Virginia Woolf, which you can see the influence there. It's very chain of thought, if that makes sense, but following the journey from childhood to adulthood to searching for pieces of herself that she cannot accept, searching for who she was before everything was laid out for her, the pain and the rage again that come with that, the lack of acceptance of love and being wanted. And just, it felt so much like somebody allowing me to look at them being wide open, looking at their internal organs and realizing it could just as easily be any one of us. And I'm not exaggerating. At the very least, that's how it felt for me. Because it felt so deeply and achingly human without being completely nihilistic. I loved it. I loved it. Non-fiction, but I loved it. Here's another one that I seem to sound a bit like a broken record about. And of course, although I have 3 plus another one over there of Virginia Woolf books, I obviously do not have the one that I'm going to be talking about. God forbid. And that is Orlando. I know I've mentioned it before in my video about Virginia Woolf, so if you want to go check that one out, feel free. Gonna try to keep it short so it's not too boring for anybody that has seen the other video. Orlando was such a beautiful read, from the atmosphere to the quality of the writing to the lyricism of the writing to the timelessness of the writing. And it's just a book that discusses all throughout identity, gender. It is mainly the story of this person that goes from being from being a man to being a woman, and finding identity without taking into account societal norms and the way that society has formed gender to be. And it's such a classic pillar of gender identity discussion that I feel like would only make sense in this context. Not that I'm saying it's the only discussion that should be had, obviously, but I think it definitely falls into the category of Sapphic literature. I'm going to break the movies section open with a confession that might sound psychotic, but I've been entering the David Lynch movies watching era, right? And I watched 2 of his movies back to back, one day and the other one the next day. So, but I haven't watched Twin Peaks, and I'm saving that until autumn. So if you watched it, please let me know in the comments how you feel about it, because I'm genuinely curious. Otherwise, my first recommendation is Mulholland Drive. It sent me in a spiral for the entire rest of the day. It starts off so mysterious, detective, beautiful color grading. Beautiful. I love his colors. I can't explain it. The next one I watched was Blue Velvet. Pretty self-explanatory. Anyways, the movie starts almost simplistic in its nature. It's a girl that goes through a car crash, gets amnesia, she finds a place to stay. Obviously, she just enters a house randomly, illegal. She meets this other girl that is probably the most sweet and gullible person that you've ever seen. She probably only listens to Taylor Swift, unironically, nothing else. Not that I'm trying to stereotype, it's just the image that I have in my head, okay? Stick with me. And they go on this journey of trying to find out who the girl that went through the car crash is, her identity, what happened, what's going on. There's these symbols in the movie. There's these creepy, scary parts that happen that are sprinkled into such mundane, let's say, scenes or whatever. And the coloring is so symbolic, I feel like. Anyways, and then halfway through, throughout the movie, you sense that there's something between the two of them, and obviously something develops. But then the movie flips completely into the most psychotic, twisted, dark ending that you could have possibly seen. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. If you're looking for something to completely erase your brain cells for the next few hours of a day, go for it. But it's not a light watch. Not that kind of brain eraser. Just saying. I can flex that I did 7 years of ballet because I'm getting to recommend Black Swan. Do those things have any kind of correlation? No. Nonetheless, I'm recommending Black Swan, which is, once again, you notice a theme of intensity and insanity in a lot of these Sapphic recommendations, and I think that that's for the welfare of humanity. I think that that's just the most beautiful thing. Girly obsessions and girly all-consuming is the best genre, right? Anyways, ballerina goes insane, has an arch nemesis. Her entire life is dedicated to ballet, and her arch nemesis is undeniably very attractive to her, but at the same time, she's having psychosis, and it gets dark and twisted really fast, but it's dressed in lace. And there's Natalie Portman, and there's Mila Kunis, and there's Winona Ryder. And that's where I'll stop. And genuinely scary makeup. I don't think there haven't been many things I've been scared of in movies. That is an absolute fucking lie. I hate horror. But nonetheless, Natalie Portman with red eyes is... I'm waiting for my camera to stabilize because I moved it. Let's talk about Tar for 5 seconds. Is the character Tar the best person on the planet? Probably not. Does the movie follow the consequences of her actions as she rises? Well, she's got a chance to rise towards success as a composer? Yes. Is it fascinating in its realistic look at the character without glamorizing the figure? Yes. Is Cate Blanchett probably one of the most beautiful things you're gonna see? You're asking the wrong person if you're waiting for a no. So yeah. It's just fascinating that, first off, even the beginning, you start with credits. I think they're backwards. It says so much about how the movie is going to go and how they approach this with such a calculated, natural aspect in mind that it's honestly such a worth it watch. It's not the most fantastical thing. It's not the most... In comparison to Mulholland Drive, they're just completely different meals. Completely different meals, but nonetheless, really good. And again, you get the opportunity to look at Cate Blanchett, so I see no losses over there. And now for the one that I actually finished today, and it's my last recommendation to you. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Did it make me tear up? In the last 15 minutes, I was going places. Yeah. Yes, it did. It's, once again, visually quite striking. It's very period drama-y. It's the story of a painter commissioned to paint the portrait of this young girl that is supposed to be married off to this mystery man in Milan. And the thing about her is that she's very hard to paint because she does not pose. And the painter before had a really tough time with her. But nonetheless, this other girl takes the job as a painter, and they meet each other, and she secretly paints the portrait out of memory. They hang out every single day for the next, I think, 6 days. That's the first time around. Spoiler, maybe. Nonetheless, they hang out quite a little bit, and something brews between the two of them in those days. The painter comes clean on what the intentions were, that she was actually hanging out to paint the other girl. And they spend some more time together until inevitably the story unwinds in a very societally acceptable way. I think so many of the small interactions hold such meaningful conversations that people should have about love and human connection in general. So yeah, there's that. I'm gonna stop yapping now. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed. I know I'm not uploading super on schedule. Spring, it's not my season for that. But I still hope you enjoyed, and hope you're okay whenever you're watching this. Yeah, sending you lots of love. Let me know if there's anything in particular that you would like to see. I'm genuinely super open to suggestions. And yeah, have a good time whenever you're watching this. Hope you didn't fall asleep by the end. Bye.